My number one thing that I took away from Media Day is that now Pinkney and Jordan Williams are full go. Okay. Obviously, one of the biggest storylines of the offseason was going to be the defensive line. We lost our entire starting defensive line, the big boys in the middle, Dexter Lawrence and Christian Wilkins. So a lot of eyes were going to be on the defensive tackles. And what happens? Both of them get injured. Okay. Both of them are out for the spring. Niles Pinkney went down with a pectoral injury, and Jordan Williams went out when I think he had a leg injury playing basketball, had to put a screw in or something like that. Just kind of freak accidents, things that you don't expect to happen, especially when you're already thin at a position. It's kind of one of those unthinkable things. But it happened, and I think it's actually a blessing in disguise. We had a lot of people that were able to grow up during the spring. Tyler Davis, Xavier Kelly, some guys like that will be able to depend on in the fall. But the fact that those two are full go is a breath of fresh air for Clemson fans. I mean, a lot of people, were getting anxious over that news. So it's good to hear, and I'm glad for those future Tigers. Hopefully they can they shine for us on the football field this year.
My biggest, I guess, aha moment for Media Day was that Jeff Scott and Dabo Swinney both mentioned that Amari Rogers could be back in September. So that's my number one, because I was like, whoa. And if you know anything about me, you know that I've tore my ACL twice, unfortunately, in my right knee. And so I know the journey once and I know the journey twice. And it's not fun to have to do that. But I'll tell you that, these guys are way more athletic than me. They got the best equipment, available. Deshaun Watson was able to come back quickly. A lot of other players that we know in the past have been able to come back quickly. It looks like Amari Rogers is just another one of those guys. If you're an elite wide receiver, you've got to be somebody who is able to recover from injury pretty quick, even such a devastating injury, I guess you could say. Back in the past, when we were growing up, Al, I mean, an ACL was like, you're ripping open your knee, and it's going to take months and months and months, and before you even get out of the bed, right? Well, nowadays, they go in laparoscopically, 2 little things, boom, 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 you're out of there same day. And I remember when I did it back in 2011, I mean, they had me in rehab walking, bending that sucker day one, so I can only imagine what they have Amari Rogers doing. But I knew something was up because I saw him walking, and I saw pictures of him at practice with gym shorts on and his shirt off and like doing drills. Not side-to-side drills. They said he was going to start maybe doing some side-to-side drills later on this month. But, whew, man, that's crazy to think.
My number two, Jackson Carmen. Okay, everybody knows the name Jackson Carmen, 5-star recruit, left tackle. His commitment and work ethic, that was kind of reinforced during media days by one of the coaches. I would imagine it's his offensive line coach, Robbie Caldwell, but I can't remember who the quote was attributed to. I think that is very good news for Clemson fans. Jackson Carmen is obviously the heir apparent, to Mitch Hyatt. Everybody is hoping he can keep his weight down, and he's able to move his feet and get his body where he needs to be that dominant left tackle he looks like he can be, and definitely has the skill set to be. That was great news to hear. That it seems like he's on pace to stay around 340, which is, I believe, where they want him to be. That's a good weight for him to be at, and he seems to be controlling that. He seems to have bought in. The Dabo Swinney all in, really buy into what they're doing and caring about what he's doing, caring about the work that goes into it, having everything, upstairs so that he can play his position to the best of his ability. And he's got the family feel. He knows he's got his brothers are counting on him to do his best. So I think he's really bought in, and I think that's great news for Clemson come fall.
But my number two is Dabo Swinney saying that James Skalski, James, he kind of changed it, James now, I guess. But James is going to be an all-conference guy. And that's a big deal. I mean, from somebody who hasn't played very many snaps, you look at that linebacker core, the snaps just aren't there. Unless you're looking at Isaiah Simmons, who was the second highest in snaps overall last year, 780 snaps last year. Which is a crazy amount of snaps, considering that Dabo and the Clemson team was a team that played on average like 72 and a half players.
Right.
And so you're playing that many players, but turning around and Isaiah Simmons is not coming off the field. Well, guess what? Kendall Joseph wasn't coming off the field either. So there's a lot of linebackers that I think we don't know about, but they don't have a lot of snaps. But Dabo and company said, hey, these guys got the talent. They just don't have the experience, but they're going to get the experience quick. right?
Yeah.
So I like that. Made me feel a little bit better. If you followed the show at all since January, everybody said the defensive line. I said linebackers was my concern. So it made me feel better knowing that James Skalski is going to be an all-conference guy in Dabo's eyes. And so, a lot of people are saying that he's a little bit more athletic than a Ben Boulware. And I even looked up, he's kind of a weak side linebacker. They have him on the depth chart right now. Yep. And that's somebody that has to be fast because they have to go because typically the run's not going the direction they're going to be lined up at. So they have to go across the field to catch up behind and get around blockers that are going the opposite direction. So you typically want your strongest on the strong side and then you want your fastest on the weak side. And so that says a lot about James Skalski.
My number 3, I'm going to match you with Amari Rogers as quick ACL recovery. Obviously whether or not he plays a lot this season, yet to be determined. Dabo is the eternal optimist when it comes to getting guys back from injury. So you'll have a lot of jokes on social media and message boards saying, hey, if he says September, it's probably next September. Okay. We all know how they do with their injury reports sometimes, but I'm really looking forward to Amari Rogers getting back. I'm not super worried about it like a lot of people. I was really excited about what I saw from Cornell Powell in the spring game. Thought he did a great job. It's about time for him to blossom. People have expected a lot out of him. So I hope that, Amari Rogers can come back, if nothing more, than to be a depth guy, another person you can count on. But we all know Amari Rogers is a proven commodity. He's done this before. He's been through the big games and he's made the big plays. So obviously you want him to be your number one guy. But I feel pretty good about what they have behind him in case he's not able to be back anytime soon this year.
It kind of piggybacks into my third top 5. My number 3 was that Dabo mentioned that 80 of the 120 players are freshmen or sophomore, which is crazy to think that. I mean, if somebody gets injured or somebody gets replaced, typically that person right behind them is not going to be a junior, not going to be another senior, not going to be a graduate. It's going to be a freshman who has not played very many snaps or a sophomore who's not played many snaps. That shows a lot about last year. Last year was like super talent, super experience. This year, the stuff we're getting from Media Day is that the talent's still there, the experience not so much, right? So he's calling on those guys like Cornell Powell to step up, like the Amari Rogers who are still injured but step up. Tanner Muse, who's at Media Day right now, step up, be a leader. Isaiah Simmons, John Simpson, step up, be a leader because there's not a lot of experience right now. So if you look at it, there's 6 positions with no senior representation at all. QB, running back, tight end, defensive tackle, defensive end, and cornerback. That's a lot of positions. Yeah. And if an happens, you're going to see somebody real green jump into that position. And even if something doesn't happen, you might see somebody like an Andrew Booth just jump in and take over anyways. So it's interesting to see. I think the guy that's going to probably jump in early is going to be Tyler Davis. Somebody mentioned Stephen Lennon put in who will pair up with Xavier Thomas and on the D line. You got Justin Foster on the other side. You got Tyler Davis going to be a backup. You got Niles Pinkney and Jordan Williams. So there's guys there, definitely big time 4-star guys, big guys ready to show out. Obviously Thomas is a 5-star elite all-American freshman All-American. Like I said, they just don't have a lot of names on the roster, but they're going to have names by November. I tell you that for sure. But so that was my number 3. What's your number 4?
Number 4, you'll love this. You'll get a real kick out of this. I have the depth chart. It was a depth chart note. Shawn Pollard at starting center. Okay. Look, we all know how the depth charts go. Okay. This is a depth chart, before they've really gotten into summer workouts and fall camp. These things aren't worth the paper they're printed on most of the time, okay? But it's something, as a person, we're going to call us the media, okay? You have to analyze, you have to overanalyze, and you talk about it all the time, okay? So Shawn Pollard is listed as starting center. That's a good sign for Clemson, okay? If he can really get the location and the velocity on his snaps, that's a great place for him to be. He's versatile. He can do the other positions on the line. He's been on the interior. He's played right tackle some. He actually had a little, struggle last year when he played some right tackle. But he's proven he can do it before, so I have no doubt he can get back to it. But if you can get him as a center, I think that's where you want him. That's a big boy at center, okay? All right, you can really lead the charge in the center of that offensive line if you can have him in that position and keep him there and keep Cervinka and Simpson as your guards. I think that's a heck of an interior line, and I think that's good news for Clemson.
And it kind of relates to what you just said. But my number 4, before I get to my number 5, is that Another thing that I was worried about, I talked about linebackers that I was worried about. Well, the tight end was also another subject. Well, Jarrett Williams not coming back, right? So we take him off the list. He's gone. See ya. We don't know what he's going to do. Hope he's joining the military. I'm a veteran, so hey, I respect that 110,000%. So whatever's best for him, that's what I hope for. But tight end depth, something that Dabo said that I thought was kind of interesting was, Braden Galloway's not a loss because he was just a freshman. We didn't know much about him, right?
Right.
JC Chalk, it's his time. He's going to have to step up, and he was prepared for that anyways. So losing Braden Galloway, who is a freshman, and then swapping them out with Jalen Lay is basically the same thing from what Dabo was saying. And then you got Davis Allen, who's, if you look at his film, we need to do some film on him, Al, because he's good. He's not a highly starred guy, but we know that stars are only just a hint of the picture of a player, right? And even Dabo said, hey, worst case scenario, if it's third and pass, I'm putting 5 wide receivers out there. So he's like, we don't have any worries. We have 5 wide receivers that can definitely handle it. If worst case scenario, we have to lean on a tight end to catch a ball, we got a problem with this roster at least, right? Yeah. So that's the good thing about this roster for sure. So the tight end, something that I was nervous about, but not so much from Dabo's eyes, made me feel a little bit more comfortable too.
For my number 5, I kind of went a little off kilter with this one, okay? I went with facilities upgrades, okay? In the media days, they were talking about some things we might do to Death Valley to enhance the experience. Sound system, new some East Zone suites possibly, and a new video board. I know we spoke briefly about having, a discussion on the facility upgrades, and you weren't really sure where we were going to go with it. Well, they kind of outed me this week, and they started talking about some of the things, so I figured I'd go for it. I'm a little upset, though. I mean, these facility upgrades, I think from what I read, they're not going to be, online, so to speak, until possibly 2021 at the earliest, I thought. I was really hoping, this is about a year ago, that we were going to get a new video board this year. And that didn't happen. And I was like, okay, surely it'll be next year. Apparently that's not the case either. But the video board we're looking at is like quadruple the size of the one we have now, which is awesome. I was a little underwhelmed with the new video board when they put it in a few years back. We got a new video board, new sound system. Really like that they put the 2 video boards in the east end zone. The west end zone. Those look really cool. I like those. And the new one, on the hill was great, but it needed to be bigger, especially compared to some of these gigantic jumbotrons they have around the country. It's really hard to see some of the replays depending on, what seat you're sitting in. So I think that will help looking at a lot of the plays after the fact. I think it'll really enhance the experience if they're able to make this gigantic jumbotron. I'm excited about seeing it. I hope it looks really good. The sound system we have, I hate to say it, it's not good, okay? We don't have a good sound system. People around the country right now are embarrassing us with our sound system, all right? We got to do better. We're Clemson. We should be doing better, and they're going to get it done. It's just going to take a little while to do it. Now, the suites over the end zone is another matter altogether. I don't really know if I'm for or against suites in the east end zone. What do you think about that?
I'm all for it because I think there needs to be something over there. I don't know how it's going to look.
Right.
I do want to preserve the ability to see the police officer blue lights coming around the corner because that is intimidating. It gives you chills even when you're on the good guy side, and I don't want things to cover up that reflection of the blue lights because it's just freaking awesome. So sure. And the board, the TV board, I agree. TV board was too small when they put it in. Mm-hmm. I've been to Arkansas back in like 2007 and the board was bigger. So I was disappointed when they put that up, brand new. The sound system, I didn't think we had a bad one until we went to the national championship game in Tampa. And Raymond James has by far the best. If you look at some of the expert, opinions of NFL writers, they all agree. Raymond James has a nice surround sound system, big giant speakers on basically every light. And all around the corners and everything. It's just, you're just so immersed. It feels like you're at a, luxury movie watching something live. It's pretty awesome. Or a concert or something, like maybe Taylor Swift or something. Not that I've ever been to a Taylor Swift concert. But my number 5 is the 10 offensive linemen Dabo talked about. He mentioned, he was like, dude, I mean, I remember growing up as a kid, my dad complaining every single Saturday about, oh, next year we're going to get a better offensive lineman coming. We're going to fire this offensive line coach. We're going to get this guy from Georgia that's going to come in and do something, and every year, oh man, if the quarterback just had more time, and now it's like the past couple of years we've gotten 5-star offensive. You're an elite program when you start landing those 5-star hog mollies, right? And you're doing it consistently, because that was one thing we weren't able to do. It's kind of Dabo's always shown he's been able to land big time position players, I guess finesse players, but those big time in the trenches guys on the offensive side have kind of been elusive until now. So it's nice to see that. But he said he's got about 10 or 11 guys, and if you look at the roster, take out the true freshman guys, it's about 11 guys that could be interchangeable. It was one of the only position groups as a whole that had a solid number 1 starter and a number 2 starter, right, or a number 2 guy right behind him on the depth chart, each of the 5 positions. And he even said, hey, Jackson doesn't show up, throw Tremaine on the other side. And that's a big deal to say. I mean, switching sides is, sometimes like writing with the opposite hand, because you see things from different angles. You have different techniques that they do, different kind of moves to try to get around you. And, there's a passing side and there's a running side. So for what little I know about offensive line, I sound like I know a lot. I don't know a lot, but that was my thing. It's just the fact that Dabo said, hey, we got 10 guys that can go right now. And, Jackson's been dealing with some weight problems, but Robbie Caldwell said he felt like he was fine. So